What's up, Eric? Or Andre. Eric's the other one.
He'll be here. Uh,
Eventually.
Deck profiles, right? Because
Deck
we kind we
profiles.
kind of we kind of like them on Vanguard Center channels. Today I got Seaman.
Oh, it's a pun.
Hmm. And probably soon to be outdated Seaman because of Vanguard reboot, but kind of needed it. But in all seriousness, this is one of my favorite decks from GR, if not the favorite, just because it was the first one I played. And it was the one that got me really hooked into Vanguard ever since I got the trial deck. So I'm really excited to get to show this off, and, well, I guess rather than listen to me talk, I guess you want to see the cards I play in here, right? Lee's here for discussion, so
Sup?
we'll start with the grade 3s, just because it's easy to kind of filter into discussion. So we got 4 of the new Thavas from Ultimate Stride, Supreme Ruler, and 3 of the old Thavases.
So I hear everything gets resist.
Yeah, if you don't know what they do, when he's in the Vanguard circle and you stride on top of him, you give one of your units resist until the end of the turn, and if that unit has the wave ability until the end of the turn, it gets to attack from the back row. So basically just a free poke from the back row. Second skill, and this is why you max him out, actually, too, is wave first or fourth time Gen Break 2, at the end of the battle that he attacks, he stands himself. Doesn't even have to attack a Vanguard, which is pretty neat. And the timing works perfectly with another card that's basically the entire deck. I think Lee knows what I'm talking about. Just very versatile, grade 3 all around.
Yeah, that fourth on there. And then it just says stand.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Well, unfortunately, though, it does have a bad Nubatama matchup just because they can dominate this and then get to use its ability against you. But that'll be in discussion for, I think, when we talk about how the deck does in the meta later. Then we run 3 of this because it has a Thavas name. You never want to be on another. You never want to be on a non-Thavas Vanguard. If you don't know what this thing does.
Let me check. One, that's not Thavas. Who, not Thavas. Suppresses, not Thavas. The, not Thavas. Storm, not Thavas. Thavas. Wait, is Thavas Thavas? I think Thavas is
Yeah,
Thavas.
it's a Thavas party here. So when you stride on top of this guy, you choose your Vanguard. It gets the ability, when your unit attacks the Vanguard in the 4th battle, you get to choose 3 of your opponent's rearguards, they choose one among them to retire. It's a free retire, but it is kind of low quality. But I mean, I guess for each stride skill.
Okay, quick question. If you were to play this game 100 times, play this deck in games 100 times, how many times do you estimate you'd use each of his effects?
Funny enough, this is actually the discussion I was going to go into. With the way the meta is right now, and with the way that playing this deck so much that I've kind of figured out, against most decks, this is actually the Vanguard I prefer to be on.
Really?
I know this sounds a lot. This sounds crazy because most Thavas players are like, "Well, this is your main ride all the time." This Thavas isn't amazing as a Vanguard against control matchups, against things like Redora, Overlord, Chaos Breaker, for example. You need to ride this. Um, One, because you need to stop basically disruptive G guards from being able to sort of mess up your formations.
Denial Griffin.
Denial Griffin is
Let's
one.
be honest, we all always mean Denial Griffin. Yes,
Gear,
hetero round
even
exists, but we
even
don't
Gear
need to talk
Chronicle
about
actually
it.
you want to be on this. Second, against things like Redora, you need the back row attack to basically be able to actually at least ensure you have the formation to reach away. Same thing with Chaos Breaker. But the issue is I only run 10 wave units in this deck. So against any other matchup that doesn't either have a disruptive G guard or is incapable of hard control, this doesn't really give me a lot of value. If anything, it becomes a vanilla grade 3, which is why against most decks I prefer this, because this at least gives you some you get some kind of benefit off riding this. So for example, in the current meta, if I were playing against Dark Irregulars, rather ride this because at least I can pop one of their rear guards versus not having enough wave units to be able to make use out of this guy. But you max him out as opposed to him because he's an amazing rear guard. You'll see later in the deck as to why I'm not running more than 10 wave units, because with the way the meta is right now, you kind of need to draw a lot of cards, if that gives you a hint as to my grade 2 and 1 lineup. But if I definitely ran more wave units, this would be the main ride 100%, but...
And how many times will you use the GB2?
Oh, when it attacks a Vanguard. And the 4. I actually got our local gold paladin player on that one time. It was pretty funny, and deleters, because they hit me with the Zalkland, and then I had a so they hit me with Zalkland actually, so I couldn't stride because all I had was grade 3s left when they got that stand trigger. So then I ride this, and then I had the Supreme Ruler in hand, so I was able to get to the 4th battle. And I saw their drive checks, I was like, you can't guard, can you? It's all crit triggers and stand triggers. Oh, that sucks. I actually did get a game off as GB2 once, but no, you're never gonna use them.
Okay, fantastic. Let's talk grade 2s.
So first, and actually the last time I think I did a deck profile before that failed, I did change one thing. We used to run 3 of him, now we're running 4. He's free on Alexandro's turns.
Yay, free!
Doesn't cost any counterblast. The 5k is pitiful later in the game as Alex gets more powerful. You basically attack into a rear guard, then Alex will restand him, and then you use this effect to attack a Vanguard when he's at big numbers, and then restand him for -5, get another big attack in. And unlike Adelaide, it's not just on place, so this thing has use beyond the first turn. Also, obviously, early game card. Even though you kind of don't really see his early game value even more just because of 10Ks exist now. Everyone's running 10K bases, so run this at 4, not because of his early game potential, but because of his ability just to be a useful rearguard later, which is all this deck is. With that being said, we still go 3 of our Adelaides here, our beautiful Adelaides.
Yes, the only Adelaide.
Ha, I get it. Because Cheergirl Adelaide.
The only Adelaide!
I'm pretty sure you probably run her. If you don't know what this card does, when it's placed on the rearguard circle, you counterblast 1, you soul blast 1, she gains 2k, and the skill at the end of the battle if this unit attacked a Vanguard, you stand her. Reason why she's not at 4 in title is because, like I said, she becomes a vanilla after you use her skill the first time, so you basically just use her as intercept fodder later on. But I mean, it's still a card that you do want to see early game and late game because it's a fantastic target for, say, Bubble Edge. And it's the same thing where you smash into a rearguard and then just restand her with Alex and then have her use her own ability when she's at bigger numbers.
So neither of those have wave.
No, which is why, like I said, most matchups I actually prefer this guy now.
Right. Because I'd assume anyone would be playing at least 7 of the 2 of those, because those are your big multi-attack outs.
It's not that wave units are bad, it's just that
there aren't a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
Or great ones.
There's one that I would like to run, I'll talk about it when I get into the grade 1 lineup, but there's honestly just not enough room. Next we have our Shiplas, which is a wave unit.
There you go.
The only grade 2 that actually has the wave ability. If you didn't know, if you have a Thavas Vanguard, she gains 2k and resist. It's not GB restricted, so I guess if you failed with Megiddo, you have that.
I guess it predates that.
Second skill, wave 2nd to 4th time. She gains 3k when she attacks until the end of the battle, and then you draw a card. So really nice source of draw power. Having resist obviously makes it a pain for some decks to deal with. Even though it's a little less relevant now, and the permanent 2k is actually really nice. Means this is a nice beat stick just to basically go all around. It's one of the best targets for him because you can basically just against Redora plop her behind the Vanguard and just keep targeting her, and you'll always have something that can attack. So really nice card. Unfortunately, we can only run her at 3 because of the next card that takes up space. The only reason why this deck is able to probably keep up against the BT14 decks, we have our wonderful Saberflow Sailors. Runner at 3. Her ability, when she attacks the Vanguard after the 4th battle or more, you sack her, you draw 2. You get a lot of cards off this, I'm not gonna lie. This deck can actually draw a ton because you run her. What sucks is that she's an AK base and she doesn't have the wave ability, so in terms of synergizing well with Thavas, she really doesn't. But like I said, you kind of have to run her just because you need to build up so much hand basically to keep up with a lot of decks these days, so we keep her at 3, and she's not a bad card. Alright, our exciting grade 1s. 4 PGs.
Oh my god, PGs! But
yeah.
Eric, shouldn't you be running more specialized grade 1s in decks?
Well,
shouldn't you be trying to get off your engine instead of having the cards that allow you to live throughout the game? So, and if only your grade 3 allows you to... I'm mad at Bushy is what I'm saying.
Basically you run PGs because you don't want to take... You kind of need to stop some hits. There are things that get crits now, there are things that hit big numbers now.
Yeah.
There are things that if they hit, they make you lose the game.
And if
hint,
you can
hint.
only have those every time you ride a grade 3, you're going to be up a creek without a paddle if they can get more than one of those attacks. Bushy Road. I am not turning Dark Regulars into a no-guard deck. It's stupid.
The thing is, we don't really have any other options in Thavas because...
Oh yeah, that's right. Blue Wave's got your effect PG.
Yeah, so you might as well run this because it gives you countercharge.
Is that the only? No, there's a Blue Storm one as well. But yeah, Thavas...
it's only a Blue Storm. It's only a Blue Storm Vanguard one though. So this is literally
there's a Blue Wave and a Blue Storm one, but no Thavas one for whatever reason.
Which I'm a little bit sad about, but hey, with what the deck got in GBT 13, with how rampant it went after that set released, I can't really complain too much. Free countercharge. There's no other options.
Fair enough. Next card.
Force Strike Potter, because we like to strike.
And that's 2 more staple cards that don't have
You don't
wave.
cut this down to 2. You don't cut this down to 3 or 2 because it basically messes with your ability to strike throughout this deck. Because unlike a lot of other decks out there, we don't really have an ability to toolbox and pull cards out that we need from the deck or from things like the soul or drops and whatever you want to call it.
And as a note, that is 2 more staple cards that don't have wave.
So, which is why, again, Surpasses the Storm kind of is the better ride. Well, not the better ride.
Next card!
Well, one more effect. It does actually search out your Thavas that you need, so...
Alright,
if you
need one on rear guard.
Yeah. Or, if you're playing a control matchup and you have the other Thavas, but you need the ruler Thavas, search them out.
Very good.
Next card, our wonderful...
I hate this card.
Battle Siren Melania has resist, which is
it.
nice. The reason why Lee hates it is because of the first effect, wave 3rd time or more.
No, the reason why I hate it is because of the resist.
No. Well, what this other thing also does makes it a pain to deal with, because when I have a Thoughtless Vanguard, and it attacks in the 3rd battle or more, I get to draw a card and she gains 5k until the end of the battle. Also has the wave ability, so she can be targeted by ruler. You can plop her...
It's just been so many times where I could have won if I got into, like, my Dragon's King DNA thing, or anything like that, and just had to pop something off board, but it's like, resist. And if you're wondering why I don't hate the other things in this deck with resist, I kind of do, but I've hated her longer.
You basically plop her behind the Vanguard. If you're on ruler, you can target her for a back row attack. If you don't have a counterblast to spare for a skill, then just use her as a booster. So you basically have no downsides.
I can't really see that circle on the camera, by the way.
Oh. But yeah, basically place her behind the Vanguard. Very versatile. Next, Orpheus. 2 is fine. Because you draw so much in this deck, you're able to see at least one of her.
Hey, another resist.
Yeah, so resist makes it a pain in the ass to deal with for things like Haguro, stuff like that. First skill also makes it ridiculously broken with the main grade 4 in this deck. GB1, when she boosts something, at the end of the battle you can counterblast 1, soul blast 1, and that boosted unit is stood, but it loses 5k. But it's the same thing with Tidal Assault, where it doesn't matter because Alex is giving them so much power. So, interesting thing that you do that's ridiculously pretty bad is, let's just say this is an Alex. So Alex attacks, these stand. Well, this would have never. Well, this stands. Thavas attacks. Thavas is skill. Stand. Attack.
Yeah, I can't see that.
Attack again. Then Orpheus skill. Stand again. So this thing is going to be attacking 3 times after Alex gives it power. That's why you run this thing in your deck, dude. If you want to build this deck, at least find 2 copies of her. It's an old card, but it's well worth it. Next is our Zeros. Pretty standard.
What? Crits? That's insane. You're mad.
It's a crit. Really not much else to say about that.
Wait. There's also stuff here.
Yeah, it does have a skill. This is also a pretty hard card to find just because Bushiro doesn't reprint things. You put this thing into your soul if you have an Aqua Force Vanguard.
I think they got that one in the second crit trigger pack in Japan, which for whatever reason they didn't bring over here.
I really should have.
Yeah.
If you have an Aqua Force Vanguard, which, oh my god, we need an Aqua Force Vanguard.
So, it's Red Lightning, basically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
You counter-charge something. The only time you probably ever use that is against Chaos, because you're using your Galphilias to unlock card instead of unflipping your damage. But other than that, yeah, it's just a crit trigger. Speaking of crit triggers, 4 of our Thavas crit triggers. If you have a Thavas Vanguard, which of course you will, you put this thing into your soul when it attacks, it gets 5k till the end of the battle, and you draw a card.
Neat.
Neat. Gives you extra cards, gives you power. Run 4. No questions asked. 4 draws. Basically, if you get rushed and you damage check these things, you get more cards in your hand to at least be able to recover from that. Also, just being a draw trigger means that you can get to your combo pieces a little easier. I've seen some Thavas decks run 7 draw triggers or even 8 draw triggers. I think 4 is enough. Just because crits and your restanding rearguards are pretty ridiculous. So.
Is it important for this deck to be faster with having more crits versus more stands? Because usually the decision when you cut back on crits for stands is that you don't need to go fast.
Yeah.
You need to just survive.
Yeah, the deck certainly does need to be faster. One of the most devastating things actually that does happen in this deck is when the opponent is around, say, 3 damage and it's like Alex's first or second stride. If they no-guard the Alex, what I'll do is I'll actually, and I know they no-guard, I'll just dump the entire crit trigger on one of my restanding rearguards because they'll get put to 4 anyways, and when that rearguard is swinging for about 26 or 31k with a crit, and that kind of means they have to drop their entire hands to basically survive. So it certainly does put a lot of opponents back on the back foot. So you want to be checking crits. I've even thought if this deck could draw enough, maybe going 12 crit Thavas, but who knows. Right now we're just going to go standard 8 crit 4 draws. Oh, and speaking of triggers, heal triggers.
Those are the ones that unflip, right?
Yeah.
No need to discuss.
It's your unflipping resource recharging heal trigger. Next, actually this does need some discussion. Bubble Edge Draco Kid.
That's not the thing that calls a grade 3.
So some decks will run Kelpie Rider Mitros, which Mitros is the starter that GB1 when your Vanguard of Thavas and name attacks with 3rd time or more, you put them into the soul, and you can basically superior call a card from your deck with Thavas and name and then bounce it back to hand. That starter does help with the aggressive early game, or with the aggressive first stride turns on Alex, but the thing is that I like this for a couple reasons. First, the more basic one, it's not GB restricted, so if you're facing things like Chaos or Overlord or anything that can really blow this card up before you get a chance to use it, you can just stuff it into the soul and at least have that be a resource in the game rather than just losing it. Second reason is this card makes you draw a lot of things. It really does. This card's ability, if you didn't know, if you have an Aqua Force Vanguard, which of course you will, you put this thing into your soul, you choose one of your units, one of your Aqua Force units, and it gets the ability, when this unit attacks a Vanguard, 4th battle or more, you draw a card. So basically what you do is that you could target a Ruler, you could target a Tidal Assault, you could target an Adelaide, basically anything that can restand itself at least once after the 4th battle, and normally this is going to net you at least 2 cards off one of these rearguards. If you happen to have an Orphea, you get 3 cards drawn off that, because Orphea will restand that unit 1 more time. So this builds your hand to be huge, to the point where in this deck I'm usually operating with around 10 to 12 cards after first drive. So, just my preference, I like to draw a lot in this deck, and I've noticed the win rate of this deck has gotten a lot bigger since I switched the starter out for this. Alright, G-Zone time.
Yay, the fun cards.
Well, not in this deck.
Yay, the fun card.
We'll start off with the deck. This is your G-Zone. That's all you need.
Good night, everyone. Time to go home.
In all seriousness, this card is the only reason why the deck is even remotely good. So what does Alexandros do? Wave 2nd or 3rd time, at the end of the battle that this thing attacked, even it being at the end of the battle means that you can then assess the situation depending on trigger checks and whatnot, so that's even big in and of itself. But wave 2nd or 3rd time, you basically stand 2 units and they gain 5k for each card in your G-Zone. Those cards can attack more than once. You can see why this card is ridiculous. Normally by 2nd or 3rd stride, you're giving your units usually plus 15 to plus 30k on your restanding units by themselves.
So this is the thing I've noticed about some of the, last set strides. Is there ever a phase in the game in which he is not good?
Honestly, no. there's very little situations in which you would choose to go into something else over this, just because this card is so versatile with the way its skill's written, right? It being second or third time means that against control matchups, you don't have to worry about not meeting the requirements for it. Unlike Lambros, this can give power to standing rear guard, so you can adjust to that accordingly. And also, it not even using it, only being able to use its skill at the end of the battle means that you can also adjust based on trigger checks from your opponent, rather than other things being like during the battle attacks, you use its skill.
I noticed that in like a lot of things, like Belam and what's the one for
Renee for Nubatama?
Renee for Nubatama. Just at every single point in the game, they're really, really good to go into. And this sort of has that, but it also has the advantage of being a GR, so it doesn't persona flip.
Yeah, so that's why I max him out too, because there's honestly nothing else you would want to run over this.
So you can potentially go into him 3 to 4 times. So
I've gone into him 3 times. I don't think I've ever used the 4th one. I think I came close against an Overlord player.
Yeah, potentially. So it's good to every phase of the game, and you can keep going into it. So even if the game gets really grindy, or if you're just pushing really fast, either way, this guy is a real good tool in your toolbox.
Yep, amazing first stride, amazing later in the game as a finisher. Even his cost is advantageous. Being able to flip over any cards you want is going to be advantageous because of the G-Guards, I'll show you.
Yeah.
So...
And in addition to that, it means you can go into it more than twice. So this is a situation where Bushy being nice to us actually ended up screwing us over.
Love this card, was afraid it was going to get banned after Worlds because there were a lot of people that thought Thavas might have actually topped at Worlds just because of how good this card is, but thankfully it didn't, and we
Quadruple triggers!
Thankfully it didn't, and we still get to keep this card even for premium. Next is our flip fodder for Alexandros. We'll start with 2 Lambroses. You still run 2 of these just because if you don't have any counterblasts, well, he exists, so...
And hypothetically matters against, like, bees, where they just don't give you counterblast.
Yeah, that's actually another use for this guy, too, is he's useful against skis. So that's actually another matchup, by the way, thanks for telling me that, where you don't want to ride Ruler just to get the extra back row attack and be able to utilize him. Also, if you went first and you G-guarded, you can theoretically go into him to save a counterblast. So he still has his uses in his deck. I do still go into him sometimes, but the situation really calls for it. 2 Commander Thapases. Another card doesn't require counterblast, so there's that.
I still find it funny how he has both Surpass the Storm and Dominates the Storm specs.
So that was actually interesting foreshadowing by Bushi. If you didn't know what this card does, you Persona flip a copy of him, and you can choose a rear guard. It gets 5k in back row attack. And then he gains a skill GB3 wave 4th time only. When your unit attacks, you choose 3 of your opponent's rear guards, and they choose 1 of them to retire.
So this is like the first stride if you can't counterblast, right?
Yeah, if you have like a board of just all grade 1s or something, then like you can go into him just to get an extra attack, or if you're really in one of those Gize grind games, this can also give you an extra attack, so you still keep him for those damage denying matchups. Speaking of Gize, hello, our board wipe tech. This is not a bad card. I've gone into him a few times. So GB3, when he attacks, for each battle that a rear guard attacked, your opponent chooses 1 of his rear guards and retires it. With how easy this deck can rack up waves, this could very easily be a board wipe. The second skill, wave 3rd time or more, you counterblast 1, he gains 5k for each time rear guard attacked, and your opponent can't guard grade 1s. Mainly against Gize, if they manage to get into Gize before you kill them, well, this can restrict their guard, and since they can't use G-guards, it becomes trickier for them to defend, and he can get to a big number that he can hit over it. So, that's actually one thing I was actually thinking about using him against for the Gize matchup. But yeah, also, if you just have noticed your opponent has a lot of PGs in hand, this actually might be the better option in Alexandros, but it's rare. But he exists just for that purpose. Seabreeze. It's a gen break deck, not really much to explain here. Grave Stalling sucks, and you want to be able to have access to your skills.
What about the new rulings, Andre? What about the new rulings?
Interestingly enough, with the way those rulings are listed, you might still want to keep him in. Just because the ruling still requires you to be on grade 3 at least for 1 turn. Whereas this, you can ride to grade 3 and then immediately use his skill if the opponent did not ride last turn. But I only say you might still keep him in the deck just because there's nothing else you even want to run in here, so you might as well still keep him in just for a tech situation versus like, oh, I don't know, putting in an air stop or something, right? That you're never going to use. But for now, with the old rules, you still need him. Still very important. Oh, I forgot something. This. I don't know actually
Looks
how
like you got an $80 pot holder there.
So he's been on the channel once, and probably looking back at that matchup video, I definitely thought I just should have gone to Alexandros. That would have been the better play.
Did we not get any of the Grand League games up?
I don't think so.
We didn't get any
Oh,
of
because
the
the
Grand
camera
League
lost them.
games.
We'll get those later. This card is, as a Zeroth Dragon, this isn't really much of a finisher unless the opponent is on 5 damage. I mostly utilize this as a comeback mechanic, like, if my board just got wiped, and, like, I'm left with, like, maybe 2 cards in my hand, and one of them just happens to be the same name as my Vanguard, and I have the open Counterblast, well, you go into this, and you can basically call cards from your drop zone and or hand, and fill up your board, and get at least 6 attacks off that. Reason why this card's really good in this deck, though, is because you can call her, and she becomes a 16k beat stick. You can call her, and her skill goes into standby, so you can have a 16k restander off Megiddo. Or you could call him, and he becomes a 16k restander. So when you go into Megiddo in this deck,
if you have enough Counterblast.
Yeah, if you have enough Counterblast, which countercharging in this deck is actually pretty neat. It's pretty handy. So you can usually get a lot off it. So this card basically.
We're gonna have to wrap it up because it's been running low.
No. So yeah, this card's a really good comeback card. Works well in this deck just because of the regards it has. But Alexandros is still usually the better play 90% of the time. Next is our G-Guards. This is probably the most important one. We run 3 Galphilias.
Unflip, unlock.
Yep, unflip, unlock. Basically basically consistent source of countercharging you have there because you're always going to be using this, so it's almost like you have that toolbox. Whereas other decks have to rely on pieces in their main deck to do their countercharging. Also, wave 2nd or 3rd time she gains 5k shield.
Yay.
Thank God for the 3rd wave. Thank God for the 3rd time wording on that, because back in the day they used to be like, haha, I attack. Now none of your G-Guards can gain shield, so that solves that issue.
A little.
Also the perfect unflipping target for Alexandros. 1 ice barrier.
10k 1st or 4th armor.
Yep. Always handy to have
If
that
they
big
point
shield.
the big attack at you first.
Also useful against Chaos because they usually attack with their Vanguard first, so there's that matchup, and then 1 Ionis.
Because big shield is big.
Yep, big shield's big, gives all your units resist and can't be hit, so it can protect your entire board. Can basically mess with your opponent, and because Galphilia exists, even when you unflip a Galphilia with it, you can refund the counterblast charge. So.
Fun.
So that's the deck profile. In terms of where this deck is in the meta, obviously it's probably around tier 2, tier 1.5 if you believe that exists. It's capable of giving a match to all the best decks, but not necessarily. It's not going to be something that's going to be like consistently beating them. But overall, I still think you can take this deck to a tournament and still expect to do reasonably well with it. I'll say that much. In terms of like premium format, deck's dead. I hate to say it in premium format.
Too many 13s.
Too many 13s. You might keep him as a backup just because of his reguard ability. But even then, most of the Thavas specific support is probably going to be obsolete and useless because it's most likely going to be Maelstrom based support. So, but we'll just have to see. But I mean, those are my thoughts on the deck overall. Love this deck to death, and it's fun to play. So yeah, that's it. That's my Seaman deck.
Your lucky number of the day is 10.
10. Oh, this deck does need a match from the camera though, so we'll do that.